All right, guys, in today's video, we're gonna make the world's best pepperoni pizza cutting board. That's right, we're gonna make a cutting board that looks like a pepperoni pizza. Today's build is gonna be very challenging in numerous ways. We're gonna have to build a cutting board in a circle with several pepperoni inlays. So it's gonna be a lot of work at the table saw resawing. It's gonna be a lot of work at the workbench gluing up, and then we're gonna spend a whole lot of time at the CNC machine. The goal, we're gonna take some Edinam wood. That's gonna be our crust. I've got a 6/4 piece of Edinam that I'm going to cut down to size. We're gonna cut that into a circle about 15 inches. And the reason for 15 inches, a large pepperoni pizza is 14 inches. So we'll be able to set our pizza on top of our pizza cutting board, and you should see the crust around it. That's gonna be really cool. After we get it built, cut the size, we're gonna have to hog out the middle of that Edinam. And then we're gonna take some Yellowheart, and we're gonna cut a 14-inch circle that we're gonna inlay in that. And that's gonna be our cheese. And then after that, we're gonna take some Padauk, and we're gonna cut out a whole bunch of pepperoni. We're gonna use 1.5 inches to mimic pepperoni, and then we're gonna inlay every one of those into the cutting board. It should look awesome. It's gonna be a lot of work. You may see some challenges throughout this video. Looking ahead, we're gonna do some test cuts. So I'm gonna take some scrap wood and make sure the inlays work really good, because that's the most concerning part that I have. But it should be fun. Let's get started. All right, so the first step, we're gonna go ahead and cut all of our lumber down. So I've got 6/4 Edinam, and then I've got 4/4 of the Padauk and the Yellowheart. So I'm gonna go ahead and rip that on the table saw, cut it to size on the miter saw, and then we're gonna resaw on the table saw. I still don't have a resaw blade for the bandsaw, so we're gonna spend a lot of time at the table saw first, so let's cut. All right, now we have our ingredients basically sized up. We've got our dough. So this is ready to glue up like that. We've got our cheese, gonna glue up like that. And then we've got our pepperoni. So those are gonna stay in strips. We're gonna cut those out across here on the CNC machine. So the Edinam is still 6/4, we left that alone. We went ahead and resawed the Yellowheart to 1/2 inch, and the pepperoni or the Padauk, we went ahead and resawed to 1/4 inch. So ideally, we only have to take out 1/2 inch of the Edinam, so that won't take too long. And then whenever we do the inlay on the Yellowheart, we can go a little less than 1/8 inch, so it's proud, and then we'll just take a servicing bit and clean everything up. So that should make it really easy. This thing is gonna be too big to go through my lunchbox planer. So I'm gonna have to level everything at the CNC. So that should actually be pretty cool to watch. But hopefully I can get it pretty close. I don't really want a whole bunch of high spots, i.e. if there's a piece of pepperoni sticking up that much, that'd probably be too much. But either way, to the next step is our glue up. All right, to do our first glue up, we've got the parallel clamps out. We're gonna go ahead and use Tight Bond 3 because we know this is a cutting board that's gonna get plenty of water during cleanup. So we want this to be super strong. Okay, now that we got our pizza dough ready, let's stick this thing in the oven to bake. Just kidding. We're gonna let it dry for several hours before we get it out. Even though this has a pretty quick time, dry time, we're gonna go ahead and let it do its thing for a long time. There we go. I guess you could call this a cheese board. All right, we'll go ahead and get a plane. We'll clean some of this squeeze out. We'll get it nice and ready, and then we'll take it to the CNC. We'll cut out some pepperoni. This pizza's coming along. Let's go. All right, now to give an update, things haven't gone as planned. So you saw me hammering in the Padauk, or basically the pepperoni. From a distance, looks pretty rad. However, since I had to use that little sander, I've got all kinds of gaps in here. So I know I'm gonna have to fill this. And there's also a small indention where the CNC went off course a little bit. So I was able to clean up most of it. Well then, as we're building the crust, this Edinam right here, well, you see I've got a hole on both sides because I had to try it twice and they both failed. Things were going very, very nice. And then when I went to test the first side, I realized it's too big. There's a pretty significant gap. And then on this side, everything was going great until the last pass. And I guess my CNC decided to change coordinates, went off course, and really cut into the wood right here. You may not be able to see it, but it went off really, really crazy. So it almost went from a circle to an oval. So that's no bueno. So we're gonna go from the world's best pizza cutting board to the world's most okayest pizza cutting board. So the plan right now, I'm gonna go ahead and glue it down inside the side that was just slightly too big. I'm gonna try to center it the best I can. And then we are gonna get a whole bunch of sawdust and we are gonna try to fill the edges to see if we can't get something pretty cool, at least to close the gaps. So it's gonna look a little weird, but I don't think we're gonna be entering this cutting board into any contest soon. If we can get that done, I think we'll be okay to then cut it out into the pizza shape. We'll round it over, that will look great. So for now, I'm gonna glue this thing down. I'm gonna let it rest for a while, and then we'll come in, we'll fill it. We'll take a surfacing bit, we'll surface the whole thing, and then we'll fill all the gaps that are left, and hopefully we can turn a almost failed project into something pretty good. So stay tuned, let's solve problems. All right, well, I want to give you guys an update because we had to pivot a little bit. So the CNC, once again, kind of failed on me. We were doing a surface pass in the back, worked fantastic. We were doing a surface pass on the top, and well, that didn't go so well. For whatever reason, my depth adjustment messed up before the cut, and it went a little too deep. And as it's moving down the x-axis or vertical, it chatters because it puts a lot of strain on the vertical. So I got a little bit of chatter lines, but that's okay, those will sand out. However, one of my pepperonis chipped out a little bit. So I'm gonna have to fill that in. And then when I went to cut out the circle of the crust, well, it decided to do something completely different. And I don't know what that was, but luckily I was able to stop it in time. We went over to the bandsaw, we cut out the best we could, and then we did a profile on the edge sander. And for the most part, that's pretty good. We got a circle here, so I'm happy with that. Now, I've got a lot of holes to fill. So I'm gonna spend quite some time getting the glue, getting some sawdust, and trying to fill all of these holes and that one pepperoni. And then we'll sand it smooth, check for more holes, sand it again, and then we can go to the router. We'll put a round over on the top and bottom, and we're actually getting close to having a pepperoni pizza cutting board. So once again, not the world's best, the world's okayest, maybe the world's first. Let's go. Well, it turns out it's not the world's first. After some YouTube searching to back my claim, I found a video by Frank Howarth from about 6 years ago. Let's just say Frank has it figured out. I highly suggest watching his video. I'll link it in the description. All right, we've got it sanded. We've got it a nice round over on it. Now what we have to do is we've got to water pop it. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a water pop, and then I'm gonna sand with 120. We'll water pop again, and then we'll do 240. So let's start spraying. Yeah. Who ordered a pepperoni pizza, baby? Cowabunga. All right. Okay. Look at that. Look how awesome that is. Oh man, that's so cool. All right, we'll let it soak in for a second. We'll go ahead and sand the top. We'll sand the bottom. We'll water pop it again. We'll do 240. All right. Look at this bad boy. Super smooth. Super awesome. About an inch thick. Looks like pepperoni pizza in the camera. Looks like pepperoni pizza in person. Very, very smooth. All right, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and clean up all of this dust, and then we're gonna get this thing in the oil bath. And then we can get some feet on it. But for now, we gotta clean up for dinner. And now we get to take our pepperoni pizza, we can put it in the oil bath, and we'll see just exactly how this thing's gonna turn out. Not so bad. Wow, look at that. Look how that Padauk really contrasts from that Yellowheart and then that Crust. How cool is that? I think this could be one of the coolest cutting boards we ever made. All right, well, we're gonna let this soak. There's been a lot of pressure on this cutting board due to the multiple inlays, and we've got some cracking. So what we really want to do, we want to get this oil to penetrate for quite some time. So we'll probably let this thing stay in the bath for several hours, if not overnight, just to make sure it's fully saturated. But there you go, pizza cutting board. I'll check you guys later. All right, and we're finally done with the pepperoni pizza cutting board. This thing has been a struggle to get through. It's taken me a lot longer than it normally does, but you know what? Look at this thing. It looks awesome. We've got the Edinam wood for the crust all the way around. We have some lighter sides, some darker sides. We've got an inlay of Yellowheart that looks like cheese. And then we've got several pieces of Padauk that look like pepperoni. The color contrast on this thing is just absolutely gorgeous. And when I first used Yellowheart, another cutting board, I was just amazed of how gold it actually turns out. And with the gold and the red and the Padauk, this thing is super, super cool. I went ahead and did an overnight oil bath. And that was mostly because of the cracking that went through during the process of this cutting board. I wanted full penetration of that oil. And yes, it's still sort of seeping out. It almost looks greasy, some would say, like an actual pizza. But you know what? I really hope you guys appreciated watching me build this one. I hope you enjoyed the struggles that I had to overcome, because you know what? Projects don't always go as easy as you think they're going to. And for anyone out there that thinks CNC is cheating, well, get you a hobby CNC and you try it. But you know what? I think it's time to order a pizza, and I'm getting out of here. We'll see you later.